In November 2004, far off Southern California, Navy pilots faced a report that made no sense. The USS Princeton had tracked unknown objects falling from high altitude toward the sea. The contacts seemed to return again and again. Then, pilots from the USS Nimitz carrier group were sent to look. What they found was not a clear target, but a gap between what their systems recorded and what their eyes could accept. The sea below was calm enough for a strange clue to stand out. Pilots saw a patch of white water, as if something had churned the surface from above. Near it, David Fravor saw a smooth, white object with a shape often compared to a large tic-tac. It had no clear wings, no tail, and no sign of a normal engine. That was the first human view of the event. Fravor moved toward the object in his fighter jet. He later said it reacted to his movement, rising from the disturbed water and moving away. The report was not based on one glance alone. Other pilots were nearby, and the USS Princeton had already been reporting radar contacts. Yet the exact path remains hard to prove because the public has not been shown the original radar files or every flight record. Inside the ship, radar operators faced a different kind of truth. Their screens showed marks, tracks, and returns. Those marks were not pictures. They were signals shaped by distance, weather, software, and the limits of the radar itself. Crew members later described repeated contacts at high altitude, followed by fast movement toward the sea. But without the raw files, no outside analyst can fully test each claim. That missing record matters. A radar track can show where a return seemed to be, but it may not prove that a solid object stood at that point. A false return, a system error, or a broken track can create a wrong story. Still, repeated reports from trained crews cannot be dismissed without review. The honest finding is narrow. Military personnel reported unusual radar behavior, while key data stayed out of public reach. The pilots brought another layer of evidence. Fravor's account described an object that looked smooth and white with no obvious means of flight. The sighting lasted long enough to leave a strong memory, yet not long enough to answer the main questions. How far away was it? How large was it? Was it moving as fast as it seemed, or did distance and motion fool the eye? Those questions became sharper when another pilot entered the search. Chad Underwood later flew toward the area and used an infrared sensor. The resulting file became known as FLIR-1. It did not show a clean white tic-tac. It showed a bright, heat-like shape against a dark field, with the image moving as the jet and its sensor changed position. FLIR-1 is real military footage. The United States government released it in 2020 and confirmed that the video was genuine. That does not mean the government confirmed a non-human intelligence. It means the recording came from a military system and showed an object the Navy could not identify at that time. Authentic video is evidence of an unknown sighting, not proof of its cause. The infrared image also has limits. It does not give the public a full map of the object's size, range, or true speed. The bright shape may be linked to heat, reflection, or the way the sensor reads energy. The picture alone cannot settle whether the object made impossible turns. Those claims depend on aircraft data, sensor settings, and the exact distance between the jet and the target. In the cockpit, a pilot must act before every fact is known. A moving unknown near military aircraft can be a threat, a mistake, or a test. There is no safe way to assume that it is harmless. Fravor and the other pilots had training for danger, but training does not make uncertainty less real. It only teaches a person to move while fear waits for an answer. The carrier group was also running exercises, which gave the event a clear military setting. These were not stories from a distant shore or a private sky watch. The USS Nimitz, the USS Princeton, trained pilots, ship crews, radar systems, and an infrared camera were all part of the larger record. Each piece saw only part of the event. Together they formed a puzzle with missing edges. The famous claim is that an object dropped from roughly 80,000 feet toward sea level. That number has been repeated in accounts of the case, but the public cannot check the original radar track. It is safer to say that witnesses described a large change in reported altitude. The size, speed, and shape of that change remain open to testing, not settled fact. The same care applies to the reported movement over the water. A fast jump across a screen may be real motion. It may also come from a sensor handoff, a change in radar lock, or a shift in the viewing angle. When 2 points are measured without a complete record between them, the space between those points can hide the most important part of the story. This is where the Nimitz case becomes more than a tale of one strange object. It shows how modern UAP reports are built. Radar may provide a distant track. A pilot may provide a direct view. An infrared system may capture a short clip. Each sensor has a different weakness. When the records agree, confidence grows. When they differ, the gaps become part of the evidence. The human cost of those gaps is easy to miss. Pilots are asked to protect crews and ships while working with tools that can fail. Radar teams must decide which marks deserve attention. Commanders must judge risk without knowing if the object is a new device, a natural event, a sensor error, or unknown phenomena. The burden does not end when the aircraft lands. It follows the people who saw it. Years later, public interest turned the event into a symbol. Some saw proof of non-human intelligence. Others saw a case built on memory, poor data, and strong retelling. Both sides can move too fast. The direct accounts deserve respect, but respect is not the same as proof. A serious investigation must keep the pilot's own side apart from details added through later discussion. That separation is hard because memory changes with time. A pilot may recall the shape with great care while the order of events grows less clear. A later interview can add context, but it can also join separate moments into one smooth story. Official interviews help preserve the record, yet they do not replace the missing radar files. The case remains strong in some places and weak in others. The FLIR-1 video gives investigators something they can study frame by frame. It shows the sensor view, not the full sky. It gives no public view from the radar room, no complete map of the jet's path, and no final answer about the object's nature. Its value is real, but limited. It proves that a Navy crew recorded an unusual infrared target during the 2004 event. The Navy's later handling adds another layer. The video was acknowledged as genuine, but no public statement named a non-human source. That choice matters. It shows a line between confirming a document and explaining what the document contains. Government records can tell us that an event was logged. They may still fail to tell us what caused it, especially when vital files remain closed. Around the world, air forces face the same problem. A strange return near a training zone cannot be treated as a joke. It may reveal a rival system, a safety failure, or a flaw in a sensor network. If it is unknown, the risk comes from not knowing. The Nimitz case placed that risk in plain view. Advanced aircraft and ships still met an event they could not name. The larger question is not only what moved above the Pacific, it is what kind of proof should change our view of the sky. One pilot can be mistaken. One radar return can be false. One infrared frame can mislead. But several forms of evidence, gathered by trained people at the same time, deserve a careful search for patterns. That search cannot be finished while the main data remain unavailable. There is also a deeper limit. Our tools do not simply show the world. They translate it. Radar turns radio energy into marks. Infrared turns heat or light into pixels. A pilot turns motion into memory. Each step can add meaning, and each step can lose detail. The unknown may lie in the object, in the sensor, in the human mind, or in the empty space between them. The 2004 encounter still resists a final name. The USS Princeton radar reports, the Nimitz pilots, David Fravor's account, Chad Underwood's sensor run, and the FLIR-1 video create a record that is serious but incomplete. The evidence supports an unusual military encounter. It does not prove a non-human intelligence. It does prove that the hardest mystery is often not what was seen, but what was never saved for others to test.